I'm trying to mix up web scraping with Python and look at the bigger picture. Not just 100% web scraping, because I don't think that's a wise career path as such. And I know I keep mentioning that, but you need to be aware of other technologies, databases, be aware of machine learning, and pandas also. Even if you don't like using pandas, I think it's good to be aware that other people use it, so you can kind of understand why and what they're using it for. And if you're ever doing data visualization, then pandas is also the better option. So anyway, I've got a video here for you, and it is about Advertools. Now, I made a video the other week about Advertools, and that was using a sitemap, or the XML sitemap. This time I'm going to use good old books.toscrape. Bear with me on this. And what we're going to do is we're going to use Advertools to get all of the attributes from all of the pages and put it in a pandas data frame, and then we're going to write that to a CSV. And what we're going to do is we're going to use a filter, and we're going to remove any of the pages which have many prices on, because that's kind of the index page, and we only want the actual pages for the books. And also after that, we're going to, I'll show you in the background that Advertools is actually built on top of Scrapy. So I'll demonstrate that, and then also I will show you, if you're interested, and I know if you've ever watched Code Monkey King, he did some really cool stuff where he made some one-liners. So if you just want to paste in one line of code onto the command line, boom, just let it run, and then a minute later you've got a CSV. There's no need to create a Scrapy file, start a project and so on. So I'll show you just how to do this, but just with one line of code. Enjoy the video. Okay, so step one, pip install Advertools, and you can see it's referencing Scrapy and Twisted Internet there. I've already installed it, so I've not got the same message that you would get if you just installed it. However, let's begin. So next, I'm assuming you've got Jupyter Notebook installed on your machine. If not, then there's plenty of instructions out there on how to install Jupyter Notebook. So I'm running it locally on my Linux VM, and I've got some files I've already made. So let's have a look at books.toscrape. And if you're not familiar with books.toscrape, it's a site which is made available for doing web scraping practice with. So and I've got an error there, and that's the wrong file. So let me just open the correct one, and let's go to advertools.ipynb. There we go. So this is the URL, http://books.toscrape.com, and we don't need to see the header, and let's make it go full screen. That's better. And yeah, import Advertools as ADV, import pandas as PD, so fairly standard there. URL to scrape, so we're using books.toscrape as just mentioned. Right, this is where we get into the nitty gritty. So what we do is we instantiate a class of Advertools, and then we use the following methods. We pass it the site URL, so that's the URL we want to scrape. We create a temporary file, or an output file, and it's called .jl. You don't have to call it that. Follow links we set to true, and there's various different options here. So what I'm actually doing, if I didn't put this here, I wouldn't be getting the price. So this is, you can pass CSS selector or an XPath selector, and then it will get you additional information, which you can probably almost, if you're looking down here, you can, let me just scroll across and show you. Yeah, so the data frame goes quite a long way across the page, but yeah, price That's an additional field that we're picking out. Apart from that, every other field that you can see here, so this is from where I ran it earlier, we're getting H1, H3, body text, size and bytes, download timeout, download slot. All this information we are getting using Advertools. And URL titles, just get title of page. The H3 is the body text. So all this has been done without having to write any selectors ourselves, apart from the price. So then what we do is we use the read_JSON, which is actually going to read the crawl.jl file, which is made by Advertools. And then we're going to read that into a data frame, which you can see I've already done here. And then we get a data frame which we can do other stuff with. So let me just run it, and then as long as I've got a... Oh, this is interesting. Let's do run all. If you're not a regular user of Pandas, you'll probably find that most of your errors come from running one cell instead of running all of the cells. And if you're watching, if you look at here, I've got an asterisk here at the moment, and that means it's actually in progress. And if I can show you quickly while it's still running, here we go. Look at that, Scrapy. Underneath the bonnet, Scrapy is running, and we're getting lots of 200 responses, which is good. And what we're seeing is we're seeing Pandas being used to run Advertools, which is then running Scrapy under the bonnet. But from a speed point of view, this is much quicker because you don't have to do all the command line stuff, create a virtual environment, Scrapy start project, navigate to your spider directory, and do all your settings. Admittedly, this is on books.toscrape, so you can also you may also find that you need to add in some additional settings, which you can do with Advertools. It's just built on top of Scrapy, so all of the Scrapy functionality is there. So while this is running, I'm just going to, I think this is going to finish fairly soon, and it looks like it's nearly there. And once it's run, I'll show you the head. So with Pandas head, just shows you the top 5 results of the data frame. And yeah, it's taking quite a while, isn't it? Whoever knew there were so many books? So this is just one of the features of Advertools. There we go. So how much have we scraped? We've scraped 1196. Yeah, it looks like that. Yeah, 1195 items in crawl. So it created the crawl.jl, which is basically a text file with all of the results, but it's a mess, or it's not very nice for a human to read. So then it ran crawl.me. So crawl.me is basically the name of our data frame. And what we did is JSON. So we read the JSON from the JSON file with all of the lines, and we've got this. But if you notice within here, Elias Dabas wrote this, and what he's done is he's used double ats as a separator for future, for ease of parsing. And also what I've done here is with Pandas, you can filter each row or each column, and what I've done here is I've said discard. So I want to discard anything with 2 @ symbols, and as you can see, if we just scroll down, well, this is already run, sorry, let's scroll up. So before filtering, we've collected loads of pages where if you know on the books.toscrape site, there's pages where there's multiple thumbnails on one page before you actually go to the detail page. That's what we've got here in the original data frame. So what I've done is I've just gone in and said discard equals double @ symbol, because the double @ symbols are on all of the pages where we got many prices on one page. And let me just bring up books.toscrape, and I'll show you what I mean. Just bear with me. scrape. There we go. So if we go books.toscrape.com. There we go. Sandbox. So as you can see, what we got there with all of the @ symbols, we've scraped the entire site. So we've got these pages, but we don't want these pages. We just want the information per book for the sake of this exercise. So then move that out of the way. By filtering out all of those, and what you can see, this is, if you're not familiar with pandas, this means not. So what we're saying is the data frame called crawl me, the price column called price, the string, if it contains this variable. So all of this bit here is filtering, and this that I've highlighted here would find only the rows with the double @ but with the tilde in front, then we're switching it to be the opposite. So then I'm running that. Effectively, it's a binary filter. So what it's saying is, on my data frame crawl me, run that filter, and then the opposite of what that filter finds, apply to my original data frame, and then crawl me is my original data frame, but it's been updated because it now equals the filtered data frame. And then when we run crawl me, we've got, without writing any code or any selectors other than the one that I showed you, which was the price, then we've got all of these books. We've got the H1s, the H3s, the body texts, the URL. So that's pretty good. That's very, very easy without writing any selectors or XPath or CSS selectors. We've got all of that with the body text, the H1s, the H3s. We've even got the request with the user agent as Advertools. You can change that to be something more representative if you are getting blocked or if you need to put in your proper header. So yeah, there we go, 110 rows. So I'm guessing there's 110 books on Books.toscrape. I don't know how. Right, so next let's write our output to come on. Let's write, so this is where we say with our data frame, we'll write it to a CSV. And just in case I got one already, I'm just going to call it Books.toscrape 2. And just to show you I've not got anything already, let's just check. In fact, let me show you another tip, which is, let's add another cell. And just run that one cell, move that up there. If you do !ls and then shift and enter, it lists, it's running the Linux ls command. The exclamation mark is basically escaping Python. And there you can see I've got all of the standard Linux directories, and we've got 1, 2, 3 Jupyter notebooks, and we've got crawl.jl. So we don't at the moment have the CSV with all of the outputs. So let's run this again and run all. If you use pandas a lot, then I'd recommend adding a keyboard shortcut to do run all. I actually use the backslash down at the bottom left of my keyboard. So again, you can see that it's running because there's the asterisk. And if we go across to Scrapy, yeah, it's definitely running. And okay, so what we'll do with Python, if you use the semicolon at the end of each line, then you can chain commands together. So if we do this, because this is going to be a one-liner, then we don't need all of the scrape. Another semicolon there. I'm not going to make this really enormous, but I'm just going to show you the basic concept. So if we do another colon after that, I've not tested this yet, so this could go spectacularly wrong, but Then we do cron me.head. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste, well, I'm going to open up Python in a new terminal window. 3.85 in case you're interested. Okay, so if you're ready, let's paste this one-liner in. So what I've done is I've taken each line and then I've just put a semicolon and then I've put the next line, and here we go, the moment of truth. Let's just see. Is it still pasting it? Is it waiting for me? I think it's waiting for me to press enter now. And there you can see Scrapy's running away, and that's all run from one line. So yeah, rather than if, for instance, if you're not allowed to email .py files because of your firewall or your spam detection or yeah, Windows security, whatever, you could actually send somebody that one-liner in an email as text. They could actually paste that in to their, I forget what it's called in Mac, but in terminal or command prompt in Windows. And yeah, they could run that, and I'm only going to get a data frame here, but if I'd added the code to generate the CSV, it would actually just do all of what you've just seen me do in Pandas. So from a one-liner, just keep using the semicolon and append to your list of commands. And yeah, thanks to CodeMaker King for kind of showing me the way on this with one of his videos last year sometime. But yeah, because this is going to do, at the end, this will do dot head, the data frame dot head, but because it's in terminal, we should just see a terminal version of Pandas, which won't be as pretty, but we'll see the result anyhow. So I'd like to thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel, because algos and all that. I hope this has been interesting, and we've covered using filters in Pandas, we've looked at Advertools, and we've looked at how to do a one-liner in Python. So this is not Scrapy specific. You can do this with anything in Python. Chain many commands together with the semicolon. So the semicolon is the dot with the comma below. Unless you're familiar with, unless you only use Sanskrit, in which case I can't tell you. Talking of which, has anybody come across a programming language which uses Sanskrit instead of sort of Latin or Western characters? I find that very interesting, really. You could have a programming language which doesn't actually use A to Z. That would be so. In fact, you could take it one step further and just use logos, or what, logos, symbols, or even a programming language which just uses emojis. Right, that's finished, and I think it's still doing a bit of cleanup, because it should. Am I looking at the right window? I've forgotten. Did it show me? So it made the JL file. And there we go. So whilst I was scrolling, it appeared magically. So yeah, that's what a Pandas data frame looks like in terminal. Not pretty, but you can still query it. So if we do crawl me.sample, helps if you spell sample properly. There you go. So there we see we've got yeah, a bit of a jumbled up result. One row, 35 columns. Yes, you've got 35 columns. So if I do crawl me.sample .url, there we go. So sample is basically a random sample. And I wonder if I can even go to that. Open link. No, because it's truncated it. So that's a bit of a pity. But anyway, I've shown you how to use pandas from the command line as well, and how to filter, and how to do a one-liner, and how to use Advertools. So I think that's enough for today, and I'd like to thank you for watching, and yeah, subscribe, like, because of the algos. Yeah, thank you.